Hi, welcome to Performers Class. My next guest is spokesman for a band that is country and western, but with an English twist to it. And they're called the Hamilton Power Band. And with me is the spokesman for the band, Ray Hamilton. Ray.
Hello.
How did the band get started?
Well, it started off way back in a little village called Redditch, which is about sort of 15 miles south of Birmingham in England. I was a solo artist at the time called Hamilton. We decided to go into a duo situation, so we had a bass player and a drummer. It ended up as a trio, and the name started getting longer and longer and longer. So we ended up as a five-piece band with the name about 14 metres long. So we turned it down into Hamilton's Power, which was the surname of the drummer, and my stage name, which was Hamilton, about 3 years ago.
How many in the group altogether?
There's four now. We found it economical to sort of cut down to 4 than 5 because we spend a lot of time on the road touring, and economics, and also together with sort of personal lives as well. 4 is just about enough to handle.
Now, you've come over from Birmingham, is it?
That's right, yeah.
Birmingham, England. For how long are you?
We're here for 5 weeks, just in the Maritime.
In the Maritimes. Now, what cities were you in?
Fredericton, Moncton, Newcastle. A strange name I can't pronounce at all.
Let me see. I may have it here. Rishabukto.
That's the one. Now, no way can I get the lips to work around that. And then we end up in Halifax.
In Halifax. And you spend about a week in each location?
Yes, right, yes, yeah.
How have you found the Maritimes, playing the Maritimes as compared to the England?
Absolutely different, obviously.
Maybe you could explain the English tours or the different parts of it.
In England, the music is very, very sort of laid back, very, very stone country. So you have to sort of be very, very careful in what you play, because the people tend to sort of put things in little boxes. So you can't play a lot of things yet like Alabama, because the simple reason is the English people think, well, that's very much like rock and roll. So, you know.
Really?
Yeah, it's quite crazy. Hank Williams Jr., for instance, there's certain things you can do of his there that will go down a storm. Other ones, it's bordering on rock and roll. So the people tend to place things in little boxes.
I'm not familiar with the term.
Things like Don Williams, Johnny Cash, Marty Robbins. The English people tend to sort of. These people come along and brought country music to England, very much like George Hamilton IV, who goes down absolutely a storm in England. And the English people tend to look down a tube, and anything from the fringes takes a long while to get in. Where in Europe, you play Germany and Switzerland and various countries over there, they get a great intake in from the Americans being there. So they tend to open the eyes a lot wider when it comes to the music, so that a lot of things is very acceptable there, where they've got to be really pushed and kicked into the English way of life.
Switzerland, how do you enjoy playing there? Is that different in any way than in Switzerland?
Switzerland, very different, yeah. It's very crazy because where we play in Switzerland, we play in an area termed the red light area of the old town of Zurich, and what they tend to do is to have 3 or 4 squares of clubs, and you'll have a rock band in one, have a jazz band in another, country band in another. So the people come out in the 3-piece lounge suits and the evening dresses, you know, and very, very formal, and they'll come in and they'll catch, say, 45 minutes of your show, and then they'll have a bottle of wine, and then they'll go out up the road and they'll catch a 45 of a rock band.
Like tuxedos and long...
That's right. You know, it's it's quite incredible because you're on stage playing real hard country music, and you've got these people sat at tables with little lights and flowers, and it's all done very, very nicely, and they all sing along to whatever you do.
We wouldn't have had to act if we were over there.
No, it's unbelievable, but it happens, and they're very, very nice people. They all sing along in perfect English until you talk to them, and they can't speak a word of English. They speak German, but of course they records out there, and they listen to them and play them, and they know more about country than sometimes we do. It's quite surprising.
You have an album out right now?
We do. It's obviously in Europe, England and Europe. It's a live album which we did in a place called Brighton, and we wanted really to capture a live audience, a live situation. So the record company come down and taped the whole show, and it went out as Hamilton's Power Live, and we had quite a success with it. You know, we're hoping that when we come back over here, we can probably next time get some albums released over here.
Yeah, you weren't able to bring any of those with you this time.
No, obviously due to duties and various legislation that goes on, we unfortunately couldn't bring any over, but maybe next time we can get some again.
How long have you been traveling?
The way we are at the moment, about 3 years. We spend possibly about sort of 8 months of the year away from England, and we can't be away from England too long because you get forgotten. We tend to, in England, play package shows with American artists. So really, when we get home, we're still touring.
Is this your first trip to Canada?
It is, yeah.
Really? Have you ever been down in the States at all yet?
We have individually, but never as a band together.
Do you think you'd like to tour the States someday?
We would like to, yeah, because we've had a large success with playing the bases and playing to the Americans over in Europe, and we always find that, you know, you can be on an American base you can stay there for 10 years and never leave America, really, because it's more American than German. So we'd like to sort of experiment with the sounds that we've got there and see how we could do down there, you know. But obviously, Canada's a first step. So,
what about plans for the future? What are you doing when you go back to England?
Well, when we go back to England, this year has been a complete sort of merry-go-round. We've never really stopped. We started off in Switzerland. We went through Norway, Germany, Switzerland, France. We've done the whole thing round and round and round. We got back to England and done a couple of tours with Tom T. Hall, Jimmy C. Newman. Then we ended up doing a 6-week tour with a Japanese fiddle player.
Japanese fiddle player?
From Nashville, yeah.
From Nashville?
Lives in Nashville, works out of Nashville, works out of the Grand Ole Opry. A lady called Tokyo Matsu, who's a superb Cajun fiddle player. And again, a Japanese fiddle player with an English band playing American music. But the whole thing very, very well. And we've just completed 6 weeks in Europe and England.
The Japanese feel about country music. You don't associate Japanese and country at all.
You don't, because it's two different cultures. But it's weird, but it's incredible, you know, because she plays as if she was born and bred up in the mountains, kind of thing. And she tells us, I mean, she's going back to Japan now. I think she's out there for 2 months before she comes back onto the rodeo circuits, and it's pretty good out there. So, like this year, Canada ends this year for us. We get back home just before Christmas, so that then we can relax and take it easy. And I believe at the moment the agency in England is setting up all kinds of tours next year, which again will be back in Europe. Again, we'll be treading the old ground that we've done over there. So we're hoping that we're over here with the North American agency, so we're hoping that this tour is going to go down well, and we can come back over here probably about the same time next year, you know.
Do you write any of your own music?
We do. Again, that's very difficult to push into English audiences. They tend to relate to standards that they know. So what we have to do is to be very crafty and to push our own stuff intermixed with things that they know. And you normally find that they'll turn and ask you who recorded that one. And if you say, well, we did ourselves, and yeah, very good, you know.
So the album would have your own...
The album would contain, 3 or 4 tracks of our own. But you see, you have to be very careful when it comes to releasing albums in Europe, because, again, if you put too much of your own stuff on, the selling public they're very funny. If they see a track that they know, they'll buy it. If they see a track that they don't know, then they're very reserved and they've got to hear it first. So it's an uphill sort of...
A lot of promotion has to be done over there.
Yeah.
Wait, we have to take a break. We'll be back in just a few minutes to meet the rest of the Hamilton Power Band. Don't go away.
I'm searching for the rest of my